Welcome back, Wanderers. It's Naidra. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys the best Spiritborn build that will let you guys get all the way up to T4. It's also the absolute easiest build to use in all of Diablo 4 and generally in Diablo. You'll be able to get up to T4 with this, and you'll be able to do speed running, speed farming, and do uber bosses as well. So with that being said, I'm going to take you guys through the skill tree. We'll take a look at the Paragon board. We'll look at Spirit Hall, equipment, and then I'll also show you guys quickly how to use it. All right, so first, let's take a look at the skill tree. So what we're going to start with here is our basic skills. We're going to put 4 skills into Thunder Spike. We're going to take it up to Enhanced Thunder Spike, and then finish it off with Accelerated Thunder Spike. This is going to give you that vulnerable, which we're going to want, and it's going to enhance your damage, which is just absolutely lovely. We're going to be spamming the skill, or at least your evade's going to be spamming this, so we really want to make sure we're taking this all the way up there. Other than that, we're going to skip all of the core skills. We're not going to be using any of those. We do have an item that's going to give you follow through, and I'll show you what that is in just a couple of minutes here. We're going to take this down to soar. We're going to put 1 point into soar. The only purpose of having this really is in case you get walled in, or if you're stuck, you can use this to unstick yourself, but otherwise really shouldn't be using it very frequently. Next, we're going to take Mirage. We're going to put 3 points into this. And then we're going to take it up to Unrestrained Power. We'll also throw 3 points into that as well. Going down, we're going to use Ravager. We're not using this very frequently. Mostly we're looking at the passive here, but we'll throw just 1 point into this. And then lastly, for the focus skills, we're going to do 1 point into Focal Point, toss 3 points into Apex, and then lastly, 3 points into Diminishment. Following that and going down to the defensive skills, we're going to want to take some defensive skills here, as we do struggle a little bit with that, especially once we go into T4. So these are really going to help you out a lot. First, we'll throw 1 point into Endurance just so that we can get up to Perseverance. And we'll throw 3 points into that one. Jumping over into Armored Hide, which we're using pretty frequently here. We're going to put 5 out of 5 into that. Take it up to Enhanced Armored Hide. And then lastly, Adaptable Armored Hide. We really don't need Concussive Stomp, so we'll skip that. We'll put 5 points into Counterattack, and then we'll take it down to Counterattack Enchantment, and finally, Reinforced Counterattack. As far as passives go on this side, we're going to take 1 from Patient Guard, and then we'll throw 2 points into Auspicious. We could throw 3 into here. However, we do kind of need the points for other stuff, but if you'd like to, or if you're still feeling a little bit squishy, you can take it off of something else and throw it onto here. And then going into our potency skills, we're going to throw 3 into Resilient and just 1 point into Dominant. For our Eagle passives, we want to put 3 points into Brilliance. This is going to increase our Eagle skill damage based off of our movement speed, which we definitely could find useful, and then move it up to Acceleration. You could just put 1 point into Acceleration if you'd like. We're going to go into Potent with 3 points here. This is going to be helpful, so max that out. And then jumping into our ultimate skills, this part is entirely up to you what you want to do with. You could choose any of these skills. However, for me, I put 4 points into the Hunter and then took it up to the Harmonious Hunter as well. But again, it's entirely up to you which one you want to choose. I did try out the Secret first. Unfortunately, it didn't feel to me like it was doing that much damage, whereas I'm getting a little bit more from the Hunter. If you are feeling squishy though, you're also welcome to take the Protector, which does damage, but also is going to grant you some barrier. So it's entirely up to you again which way you want to go, but this can help with the defensive part of it. And then we're going to take 3 points into Resolution, take it up to Spiritual Attunement with just 1 point, and that's really just so we can get over to Supremacy, where we're going to put an additional 3. And then on the other side, we've got Sustenance for just 1, and then 2 points into Intricacy here, which leaves us with 1 point left for our passive. And for the key passive, we're going to go with Vital Strikes, which gives you enhanced vulnerable damage. This is probably going to be the best one for this build. Again, this is something that it's kind of open, but I would recommend going with the Vital Strikes. Now, jumping into the Paragon board here, I feel like most people are using something similar here, but we're going to start our first board. On the first one, we're going to use the Spirit Glyph And then we'll move up to the second board, which is going to be drive. And for this one, we're going to be using the fulminate glyph. And then we're going to move on to our third board, which is going to be the vicious shield. For this one, we're going to use the jagged plume glyph, which will enhance our storm feather potency, and we definitely want to enhance that as much as possible, which will then lead us over into our fourth board, being the sapping board. And for this, we're just going to take the canny glyph here, which is going to enhance our non-physical damage total. So definitely going to help with that damage output here. And then we'll finish it up with our fifth board on the left-hand side here, which is going to be the convergence board. I haven't completed my Paragon board just yet. I'm currently at Paragon level 212, so I still got ways to go. However, on this board, we're going to be using the Talon glyph to enhance our eagle damage and a little bit of our lightning damage as well. So going to continue on with this board. As you know, we can only have a total of 5 boards in this season. So we will eventually make our way up to the convergence node, and then we'll just kind of fill in the rest with whatever we see fit. I will post an updated version of this at a later point. So if you're still needing help with this, or if you can't figure out where to go, I will show you guys how to do that at a later time. That being said, let's go over to the Spirit Hall. It's going to be pretty simple. We want to take both Eagle, and the purpose of that is we do have an item that gives us the bonus when we're using both of the same Spirit Hall animals or spirits. So let's make sure that we throw that in there. And then taking a look at our equipment, there's only really one item that you really need for this to work. And in fact, without this item, it probably wouldn't work at all. Luckily, it's super easy to get. And if you don't have one, I'm going to be honest, I kind of started off a little slow this season and took a little while to get me to where I need to get to. But with that being said, there's a lot of really nice people out there that are willing to help. I just asked in the chat if anybody's got one of these for sale for 10 million, but ended up getting this one for free. And there's multiple people that were offering to give me one for free. So that being said, if you don't have it, throw it up in the chat, see if you can buy one for cheap. But if not, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people that'll just give it to you for free. The purpose of this item specifically, and the reason why it's so good, is it gives your basic skills increased damage, and it always uses that third attack. And the third attack for our basic skill is what resets our evade, which is essentially going to give us unlimited evade, which is going to let us continue to just zoom through monsters and kill everything really quickly. And I'll show you that at the end as well. So as far as it goes, this is the only item that you really need, and it's a unique. Other than that, for the other ones, you can kind of mess around. I'm going to preface this by saying I definitely don't have all of the equipment I still need for this, and yet still I'm able to get through all of this really difficult content. So I can only imagine how much better this is going to get as I continue to get better gear. Now, with that, as you can see, I've masterworked this. Even for masterworking, I just kind of did some random ones just so that I can get a little bit further. But eventually, what we may want to masterwork for this one is going to be the double damage. The follow through is helpful, but I would either go with the double damage or the dexterity. Now with that, let's take a look at the rest of the stuff that we have here. The other one that's going to be really good is Rakanoth's Wake for a couple of different reasons here. A, we're getting a lot of non-physical damage, which is going to be really helpful for us. And then we're getting some cooldown reduction, but in the beginning, we really do struggle a bit with resistances, especially if you don't have any mythic uniques. And so this is going to give you resistance to all elements. I got lucky and got one with the GA on it. However, don't necessarily need that. I think even just a regular one should be good. And then same thing here. I masterworked this up. I still haven't finished masterworking it, but the reason I wanted to masterwork it is I needed more resistances, and then we want more of that non-physical damage. So if you're maxed out with resistance, I would focus on non-physical damage with this one. If you're not, you can try to go for those resistances to get you a little bit more tanky. And then next, we've got our pants. So for our pants, we're looking for the interdiction aspect. This gives you more block chance per resolve stack that you have. I don't have a perfect one of these. Mine's currently only at 10%, but the better one you have, the better. As far as tempering, I added barrier generation and total armor to mine. I'm still struggling with armor in T4. Right now I have a total of 894, so I still need about 106 to get to that maximum for the season. So I did temper some armor on here. If you're already maxed out with armor, you have some other choices you can select from. However, my recommendation for this is to go for barrier generation and armor as well. Masterworking for this guy, I throw all my points into dexterity. It would be helpful to throw some into armor as well, but the dex is going to help us all around. So I would recommend going with the dexterity there. For gloves, I actually don't have good gloves to use at all for this. I threw on the Pain Gorger since technically we're using a basic skill, and I do like the cooldown reduction that I get from this as well. However, this is not necessary for this build at all, and you can kind of play around with different pairs of gloves. That's entirely up to you which one you decide to go with. For your chest armor, we do want to make sure we have the layered wards. If you have the Tyrael's Might, that's going to be the better way to go. It's definitely going to make you a lot more tanky, but like most of us, if you don't have Tyrael's Might just yet, you're going to want to go with something like this. The layered ward gives you block damage reduction, and also it's important to maintain our barrier with this one since it is based on that barrier. So that's why I've masterworked barrier generation into as many pieces of equipment as I can, and then getting some of that armor here too. The other ones that are important for this one is going to be your total dexterity. So we want to make sure we have dex. We want to make sure we've got some maximum life on here as well. However, fire resistance is not necessary. That's just the one that rolled for me. And at this point, it's getting too expensive to re-roll it, but it also is helping me with my overall resistances as well. So if you're struggling with the single resistance, you can go ahead and throw that on there as well. If not, you can change this up to something else. It's up to you. For the runes, I've decided to go with the Earthen Bulwark for this, which is really helpful. Again, especially in T4, I'm trying to get as much defensive mechanisms going here as possible. And so for this one, I've used the Sem and the K rune. The Sem rune is going to let me cast Evade. And so whenever I cast Evade 4 times, it's going to activate that Earthen Bulwark. And since this is an Evade build, guess what? That means we're going to have our Earthen Bulwark up 100% of the time. Looking at the helm, this is nice to have the Loyalty's Mantle and has been pretty easy to get, but this isn't necessary either. With this one, mine's a super low aspect at the bottom. As you can see, it's only a 32% vigor cost reduction and 32% cooldown reduction, but ultimately it's still helpful. We've got some good stats on here, movement speed, some damage reduction, which is really what I'm looking for, and that velocity. As far as the runes for this one, casting a skill with the cooldown is going to increase my critical strike chance up to 25%. We are going to be using our Armored Hide skill, so that is going to help us out with that. My critical strike chance with this is going to be pretty much at 100%, meaning almost 100% of my skills are going to be critical strike. So that's really, really helpful. And it definitely helps with damage overall. I'll show you guys what my damage looks like when we go out into the field in just a second here. But we're looking at anywhere from 5 million to 26, 30 million per hit pretty consistently. And then going on to the amulet here, we've got Redirected Force. Redirected Force gives you increased critical strike damage equal to 72% for my specific aspect. It can go up to 100% or 105% of your block chance, and then blocking doubles this bonus for 10 seconds. So really, really good to have. As far as tempering, we want to add barrier generation to this. Again, we need as much barrier generation as we can get, and then storm feather potency as well. I didn't necessarily want to masterwork the storm feather potency. I rather would have that on dex. However, that's just what came out, and like I said, I haven't even gotten to the part where I can masterwork my stuff the way I want to. I just don't have the materials needed for it. And then also, you really don't need the damage on the amulet. I threw it on here just because it got a little too expensive to continue to temper this or to enchant it. However, you can decide what works better for you. Ultimately, would have maybe liked some total armor to help me max that out, but up to you which direction you want to go in. It's not going to make or break the build. Jumping into the rings, we're not using any unique rings. We're going to be using the unyielding hits aspect for this one. The target is to have dex on here as much as possible. We want to have some crit strike chance. Instead of damage, I would have liked to have crit strike damage instead, but it did have a GA on damage and figured I might as well keep it for now. We'll definitely be replacing this with one that does have crit strike damage whenever I do get around to getting one of those. Tempers, we want to throw Star and Feather potency on here and focused cooldown reduction. I don't know if it's just me, but it's almost been impossible to get the correct ones. I finally got the focus cooldown reduction on this one, and it happened to be the minimum one possible you can get, but better than nothing. And then lastly, we've got our second ring, which is going to be conceded. The benefit to having this is we have our barrier up 100% of the time, which means we're going to benefit from that 23% increased damage all of the time. So really good boost here. We want to make sure we keep that on. And then same idea as the previous one. We want to have our critical strike chance, critical strike damage. I threw some life onto this one because it was feeling a little bit low. However, if you have dexterity, that works as well. But if your life is looking low or your armor is low, maybe look at getting something a little bit more defensive. As for the gems, don't have perfect gems yet either, but we want to make sure we have emeralds in our weapon. The royal emeralds are pretty expensive, or grand gems, super expensive, 10 million per. I barely have any gold, so couldn't do what I needed to do with that. I put the sapphire in there just because that's what I was able to make. However, we want to have 2 grand emeralds on the weapon. For the pants, threw in some emeralds here as well. This is going to give us some more dexterity overall, so that's going to contribute towards our overall damage. And then for the rings and amulet, we've got the diamond and skull so that we can balance out our resistances and also our defenses altogether, or our armor. So with all of that, that leaves me with a total of 11,000 attack power, which we really don't care for that number very much as long as we're putting out enough damage. Our armor's at 894, and keep in mind this is T4, and then our life is at 3915, and this seems to be good enough for everything that I've been needing to do. And then when we look at the stats, I've got all of my resistances maxed out with the exception of our shadow resistance, which once we masterwork all of our equipment, it should bring us up to where we want to be there as well. And then for our crit strike chance, right now it's showing at 34%, but when we get out and start attacking monsters, this will shoot all the way up to 100%, and then crit strike damage will get over 1,000 once we're out there as well. So don't worry about seeing this number being low while you're in town, but we do want to make sure that that's high when we're out and attacking monsters. And then with that said, the other thing we can look at is mercenary. This is, again, completely up to you which mercenary you want to use. The only reason I have these 2 on here right now is because I was trying to rank up all of the mercenaries. I prefer to have my hired mercenary as Aldkin, but for my reinforcement, typically I prefer to have Rahir. Rahir will pop up with the defensive bubble and defensive shields, so that's really helpful, again, especially in T4. We want to try to grab all of the defensives that we can to make sure we stay alive, but that's what I use for that guy there. And then lastly, so how to use it. I think it's extremely self-explanatory. I don't think it's rocket science, but just in case you guys want to see it live, I'm going to go ahead and show you how easy this is to use. We're really not going to be using any other skills most of the time except for evade. However, if you get in a tight spot, we want to also maybe activate your armored hide, and then every once in a while you may activate your ultimate technique, but realistically we really should only have to be activating our evade most of the time. So take a look and see how easy this is to use. And we're just jamming through. We're not pressing any other buttons besides specifically just your evade. I am playing right now on the PC, so I've decided to move my evade button to my right click on my mouse. It was getting a little bit exhausting pressing that button over and over again on the spacebar, but again, super easy to use. It's pretty brainless. It's probably the easiest build that's been in Diablo ever. So even if you're a first-time player, or if you're bringing somebody else that's new to the Diablo franchise, you can get them started with the build like this, which makes it super easy, and it's not overwhelming like some of the other builds that we've had in the past. I know that I've got a few friends of mine that are playing that have never played Diablo before, and having them try to press all of the buttons simultaneously is very difficult to do. It's a little bit overwhelming, and it kind of leaves a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth. So this is how it works. As I mentioned, we have our Earthen Bulwark up 100% of the time because we're constantly evading, so that was the benefit to having those runes in there. If you don't care for Earthen Bulwark, or if you prefer to use other runes, you're welcome to. These ones are super easy to get, so you should be able to get them by the time that you're at level 60 and you've been working through your story campaign. You probably already have the necessary runes to get it, but if not, then again, throw it up in the chat, see if somebody can get those for you for free. The community is extremely helpful, and I honestly have never seen people that are so willing to help as the Diablo 4 community. Now, when you're in the middle of a group of monsters, I would try to avoid using any other skills besides just your armored hide, and then again using your evade. When you use your ultimate technique, that does stop your evading, and then it does take a second before you can kind of start attacking again, so that might slow you down a little bit, especially if you're trying to speed farm. So I would just kind of not worry about anything else besides this. But if you're going into like a boss battle, our ultimate does give us enhanced damage. So right when you get into your boss battle, I would first slap on that ultimate skill, throw on your armor, and then just start shooting around and make sure you don't die. That being said, that is how you can use this build. Again, super easy to do, and literally anyone can do it. If you guys have any questions about this or concerns, please let me know in the comments, or if you have a better way to use this build than what I showed you guys here today, let me know. Again, I still haven't finished getting all the correct equipment for this. I haven't fully masterworked everything either, so this can only get more powerful, but I'm super excited about this season and the Spiritborn. It's very friendly and easy to use, and like I said, anybody really can do it. With that, I will continue to make other builds and show you guys also what those look like in the next couple of weeks here. This one has been my favorite so far. With that being said, that's all I've got for today. Let me know what your guys' favorite Spiritborn build is so far, or if you have any other characters that are completely OP'd or would like to see me make a build for something else. I'm more than happy to do so. I'm super excited to get out those other builds to you guys as well. If you guys like this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video below. It would really help me out. All right, thanks, Wanderers. Until next time,